Hey everyone, Dr. Foster, the success coach with MaximumChange.com. So excited that you're here today. Wanted to talk to you about one of the most complex, longest running games ever played. You know what it is? I'll let you know in a minute. Have you ever played a game? You know, like Uno or a board game maybe? You know, the interesting thing about games is that there are instructions for them. Now, the instructions usually tell you kind of the rules, and they're not always well written out, so you have to kind of figure out what's going on. Like Uno here has rules on how to use different face cards that are provided to you, and the rules for using those and when you can't use them. But the interesting thing is they don't tell you how to play the game from a strategic standpoint. Now, believe it or not, if you've never played enough Uno, believe it or not, there are strategies to playing this game. There's strategies to playing all sorts of games. Have you ever played Chutes and Ladders with your kids? There's a strategy to that. Now, obviously, it's a very simple game, but there are strategies and certainly lessons to be learned in the game of Chutes and Ladders. And as an adult, if we've played it enough, we pick up on the strategy much quicker than our child. But even Uno has strategies on how to play. I have a particular strategy that I like to use that works for me. I love this game. That doesn't mean my family loves it. But I love this game. It comes with instructions, but it doesn't tell me how to play it from a strategic standpoint. Now, let's get back to the earlier question. What is the longest running, most complex game ever played? Well, that would be the game of business. If you're in business, whether you're an employee, whether you're an executive, whether you own the company, whether you're an entrepreneur and you own multiple companies or have owned multiple companies over time, you are basically a hustler. You hustle for money. You have side gigs. You're working hard. Maybe you're working full time. You got a side hack that's going on where you're trying to create money, create a business. Whatever the case may be, you're involved in the longest running, most complex game ever played, and that is that of business. Now, we could just look at business from the standpoint of finances, and that alone is very complex. When we start looking at it from the stock market and from finances and balance sheets and income statements and stock ownership, that becomes a very complex part of the game. In fact, there are people that spend their entire life studying economics and finance and accounting so that they can play that piece of the game. In fact, if you're an entrepreneur, I strongly recommend you go find someone that can play that piece of the game really well, because that means that you are playing that part of the game really well because you have them on your team. Whether they're a freelancer, in other words, you've hired them in to help you, or they are actually an employee of your company. If you have someone that's really, really good at that piece of the game, you've got that piece of the game settled. Now, that doesn't mean that things don't change, because things do change. But you have someone that is invested in playing that part of the game really well. Now, we can also talk about business from a psychological standpoint. There is a psychology to business. How do you attract customers? How do you keep customers? How do you work with your employees if you have them? How do you stay positive, stay focused mentally? That is extremely important to winning the game. In fact, I would tell you that one of the most important strategies for playing the game is staying positive. Every day, I put on my earbuds, especially when at the gym, and I turn on Pandora or one of the other, song players out there, and I listen to Spotify or any of those. I listen to motivational speeches. Keep them pumping in my ears, because what I need to do is fill my brain with positive strategies to keep me focused so that I can play the game at my optimum. Now, there's a physiological part to playing the game of business. You have to have stamina. Now, obviously, it doesn't benefit anyone to stay up 24/7 working your business. You have to rest. But also, you need to take care of your body. You need to exercise. You need to eat right. You need to maybe drink less, maybe stop smoking. I don't know what your situation is, but there is a physiological side to playing the game of business. There is a deep need for strategic thinking in the business world today, especially if you're an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, and if you are not tied into a coach or a mentor, then you are really missing out on a huge piece of the strategy toward winning at the game of business. That's what I do every day. I work with entrepreneurs to help them build their empire. What does that mean? I don't know, because I haven't talked to you yet. I don't know what it is you need to build your empire. Do you need extra motivation, inspiration, a kick in the tail? Do you need guidance? Do you need consulting? Do you need maybe connections with those people that play pieces of the game really well? If you find a really good coach, a business coach that knows what they're doing, that have been in the business world for a long time, maybe a while, don't find someone that just calls himself a coach. Find out what their background is. Listen, I've been in business for 25 years. Of that 25 years, 18 years of it, I've been an entrepreneur. Started my first business in the year 2000. I had 0 customers, 0 product, an idea, and about $100 in my pocket. And I grew that to a global business that I sold in 3 years. And then I went on to study, to become a coach, and in 2005 launched my coaching business. So I've been a coach for about 14 years. I know business. I know what it's like to suffer, to be discouraged, to fight, to fall down, to scrape your knee, bust your leg, bust your lip, cry, bleed. Wonder why I'm doing this? Business is not for the faint of heart. It is a game. It's, in my opinion, it can be as excruciating as the hardest football game you've ever seen played. Now listen, I'm not a football player. You can obviously look at me and see I'm no linebacker. But I can tell you this. Just because I'm not taking the physical hits doesn't mean that the emotional hits don't hurt either. Being in business is tough. If you don't have someone standing with you on a regular basis, speaking into you, encouraging you, pointing you in directions, giving you advice you can count on, you're not playing the game well enough. The game of business requires you to be strategic. It requires mental toughness. It requires the audacity to decide once and for all you will not give up, because you haven't tried everything if you give up. So you can go out and buy a game and have fun with it. And it comes with instructions, just doesn't tell you how to play it strategically. You go out and start your own business, or buy a business, or even if you're an employee in a business, you can have books. You could have standard operating procedures that tell you how to do your job, but they're not always going to give you the strategy. And here's the other thing, and I said this in a video a while back. Business is a constant and ever-evolving experiment. That means that you have to constantly be recalibrating and fixing where you are and deciding if you're heading in the right direction. And sometimes the decisions are so overwhelming that it's very difficult for you to do them alone. That's why it's important that you find some people that can stand with you, like a coach or a mentor or even a consultant. So do not play the hardest, most long-running game ever played. Do not play it alone. Do not play it without instructions. Do not play it without strategy. Because if you do that, then you're really not playing the game. You're just playing as if you're playing the game. And why enter into business if all you're going to do is play like you're playing? Let's get serious. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're hungry, if you really want freedom, then you have to play the game right. And that means you got to find someone that knows how to play it, that maybe is 100 steps ahead of you in that game, 1,000 steps ahead of you. Find someone that's successful and learn from them. Listen, I have mentors, and I have people that I look up to that are running business, and I think they're 1,000 steps ahead of me. And you know what my goal is? To surpass them. I am not satisfied with average. I'm not satisfied with status quo. I'm just saying that if I'm going to do this, then my competitors need to be ready for me to catch up to them and go past them, because it may take me a while to figure out how they did it, but once I figure out how they did it, I'm going to figure out how to do it better. And once I've figured out how to do it better, I'm going to do it better, and I'm going to go past them. And you know what? I'm going to realize that they're going to figure out what I just did, and that's going to motivate me to stay ahead of them and to be motivated enough to figure out what they're trying to do so that I can continue to do it better and look within and figure out what I'm doing. And I'm going to go to my coach and my mentor and those people that pour into me, and I'm going to ask for advice because I want to win. Listen, I'm Dr. Foster, the success coach with MaximumChange.com. Figure out how to play the game and play it well. If you need help, reach out to me on my website. Be happy to have a free strategy session with you. I help entrepreneurs build their empire, and I'd love to help you. Have a good day.